Okay, welcome. This is just a review video where I'm going to go through and give this drawing here a bit of a once over in terms of the process and just laying in some anatomical shapes from different angles and just nothing new, but just to give a reinforcement of some of the principles we've been through. So here's my lay-in. I'm going to start with the gesture. So I won't be probably talking quite as much in this one, but I'll try to point out the different steps I'm going through and the kind of important things for each one as I do. So for proportion, make sure this shape or size for your head never exceeds the basic measurement set up by your proportion. And for my gesture, I want to get all the rhythms and then the angles as well. I know that this is the pelvis, so I'm going to get my torso lines to stop there. So this, and I'll probably go ahead and lay in the center line for the face. So thoracic, lumbar, pelvis. Pelvis is higher on this side, so it goes up. And then I tried to choose something a little different. We've been drawing a lot from photographs, so I just here chose a sculpture, and not any particular reason other than I like that there is some foreshortening in this one, and that's something that we probably haven't worked on too much as of yet. So here would be the foot. I might change the placement for that. And then here's the other leg. This is the knee for a 7.5 figure. So there's my knee, and then the lower leg. And then foot. And I kind of foreshorten this a little bit just to get the effect of it going away. And I think I could foreshorten this side more. So I'm going to put this knee a little bit closer in. So let's say like right here. And then if I compare it to the other side, this foot is pretty close to where the heel is on the other. So I think that's probably where it is, which means I need to bring this one up. So I think, yeah, my foot should be there. So sometimes if there's more foreshortening, I'll spend a little bit more time on the gesture. Here's the arm, and I'll just make it up, oops, even though I don't see it. So he's kind of grabbing the column. Okay, and now I'll do the shapes and the tilts. Okay. So pelvis, rib cage, and then connect. This is stretching. Center line for the masses here. Here's the pinch. And stretch. we can start playing around with the landmarks. And so I'm going to turn this down so that it doesn't give as much of a contrast. I'll be able to see the lines a little bit more so on top. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to work my way first into the legs. So here's the pelvis. It's the height, width, just kind of based off the landmarks in the front. And then I'm going to develop the leg as a cylinder. Then I'm going to use the epicondyle to the knee to square it off some. And I can kind of see the patella in here. Then fibula and tibia, ankle, and just see a triangle in here for the foot. And same thing on this side, cylinder. And I'm going to bring this up again. So you can see I'll make a good amount of corrections as I go through from a gesture. Like I had it down here, then here, and I'll move it up again. And then let's add some stuff to the rib cage. Here's the clavicle. Here's the sternum. Here is the box. So just check out where the light and shadow is reacting, and that's your box for this one. You want to size it so that it is the same as the pelvis in width and depth. And then we could lay in some perspectives for the arms. So this comes back or goes back. It's going around the column or behind it at first, and then it'll kind of come forward. So this way and then this way. And same thing here, this goes back, but both of them go back. So this is absolutely what you have to do prior to adding muscle. And so I know it's an anatomy class and that's the emphasis that we're working with, but if you don't have something here that you think is good at this stage, it's really better to just continue to work on it and not add muscles until you think that you're somewhere that is, at least solid to build off of. And if you don't think you can get there, then forget the anatomy and just keep working on the foundation. It's not going to help your anatomy at all. In other words, to just kind of blow past this to get to the muscles to study them, because no matter what you do, your muscles are going to look very bizarre. Okay, so that would be good enough, let's say. And we could do the same thing. We'll turn it down a bit. But this is the kind of the progression or the stages, just as a reminder. And now I'm going to put muscle on top, and I'm not really too concerned for the I would say the basic accuracy in terms of matching the reference. Again, I'm really just looking to try and give my best interpretation, but really I'm kind of after studying the muscles more than anything else. So that's probably good there. And let's choose a new color. Let's do it in a darker color. And so the most important thing now is, getting the wraps and the overlaps. That's it. So remember your shape, placement, perspective. Those are the 3 steps. And then make sure they're wrapping to everything. So first thing would be for the mastoid of the neck, maps onto the side of the head. It's the baseball bat shape. It's here stretching, so I'm going to make more of an S curve and just bringing it from insertion to origin. It has a little bit of a flange here, so that goes out. And then on this side you could see a big shape coming from under the beard, which is that muscle pulling around the neck, so like this. So that's going to be more of a C. And then as soon as it leaves the volume, like right here, then it's going to go straight again. So that's the wrapping, and then this is the overlapping. That's a T, and then the curve is the wrap around the volume of the neck, which is really the only reason the neck is there in terms of like thinking or analyzing anatomy or muscles in this way. So pit of the neck. Now let's just work from top to bottom. Trapezius comes from behind. Remember when we talked about the shoulder, it has 3 points. 1, 2, and then in. So 1, 2, 3. So we're trying to create that plane, right? Or it should look like a box. Right? 1, 2, 3, instead of what I see a lot of people do for the shoulder, which is this, which is 1, 2. It's just a shape. So I want to push the idea that this is a perspective or a volume that sits in there. And then let's build the chest. So chest is going to come out. It's stretching. I could see a little bit of that fossa here as the chest raises. Goes over, down. This is a S curve also. Hits and then comes over. So this is going to wrap. Let's just go in with the same perspective as the rib cage. And then we talked about how this is made of 3 triangular shapes within. After this, then we would have the deltoid, which I would try to show here as having more of a C curve, because it's pulling the arm out and away, and that ties to the outside of the cylinder, so a part that I don't see. Because what's really more so visible, and let's give it a better description, is that this is a box, and that the front of the arm is facing up. So that plane is facing this way, which means the deltoid's behind it. Like the outside is behind that view. And as I start to move down a little bit more, now we're going to look for getting that forearm to read. So I'm just going to put in there a 2x4 on top of the gesture. Just like this. And what I'm trying to understand here is that this is the underside, this is the outside, and like the elbow or the funny bone is here. So in terms of putting my muscles, bicep goes on this plane. It's stretched out, so I'm going to make that shape longer and more S-like. So it would be here. And I just maintain it to the plane of the box that it lives on. So it's not going to go past that. And then right at this line, that's where the shadow is for the edge. You get like a soft edge there or a firm edge. And then you can see how there's this and then this little jog and then back. That's the brachialis underneath. So we would have, coming from the armpit, the coracoid brachialis, which goes halfway down, and then halfway. So coracoid, important armpit muscle, and then after this, then brachialis. So that's this, and that's going to the ulna. So here we have, on terms of our box, top, side for the bicep, top, side for the brachialis. So I'm sculpting all of these on top of that extended or lengthened box underneath. And then on the bottom, the kind of the hanging shape is the tricep. So that's this, and we would do 2 curves here. One for the long head and then one for the medial head. And this is higher and more of a C because the arm's extended. Then on this side, keeping this side sharper because that's the elbow, The ridge group is here, so it's coming from always the outside. So the ridge group goes between the brachialis and the tricep, and that's one of our three shapes for the forearm. So it comes out, then starts to blend in. And then on this side, I would mostly be seeing the pronator. So it goes across, and then predominantly the flexors, which are all of these muscles on the bottom side of the forearm that would be used to kind of close the hand. So those are my three shapes for the forearm, and then kind of the hand is wrapping behind the column. And why don't we work our way down one side, and then maybe I'll just leave the other side so that you could, either try to do it on your own or just see the progression of stages. I'm going to curve this. The head is looking a little boxy. Okay, so then abs from the outside of the chest. I'm going to bring that all the way down inside the as is, and then bottom of the pelvis. Here's our center line. Member of men, horizontal belly button, and then abs, which are pretty symmetrical for him. So I'm just going to do my horizontal at the belly button, and then it progressively gets higher, and at the bottom it's a larger, rounder shape. This side, I maybe see a bit of the serratus, possibly the lat, just barely going up to the top. So I'm just overlapping form there. So I had the nipple here just to give it a landmark. And then this is the oblique. And stretched. So down, and then right on top of the pelvis. So kind of resting there. If you wanted to do both sides, one thing I'd recommend is always connecting these across. Like when you do the bottom of the chest, just bring it across and then have it relate, to the other side of the volume. So it could be easier maybe just to work with one big wrapping line there, or same thing with your abs. Get in the habit of kind of working from one side to the other. Like here's a big loop, and then that singular movement is a easier way for me to keep rhythm between muscle shapes. Same thing here, like feel out this bottom part as a big shape. It'll help, if you're used to or just kind of learning the muscles like we all are in class, then having some kind of strategy like that to keep them feeling loose and rhythmic is going to take them out of that more diagrammatic feel, which can also just come with time. So that would look like that. And then just to continue to give that example, the serratus on this side I could walk over as a curve, and then that has a rhythmic expression that connects it to the other side. My rule of 3 continues into the serratus, where I would give 1, 2, 3. The lat is very clear here on this side. It's got a giant lat, and that's going to the top, so I'll be connecting right there and then down. It kind of hits right where the pinch is. So you have like that straight line, a little bit of a choppy line here, and then the oblique is pinched. So that looks like this. And then kind of like the shadow in there. Remember, we've talked a lot about the importance of triangles. This is part of what's getting that triangle, or the shadow, and that's a fossa. So fossas are really important for showing the kind of the space and the design of the muscle. Then let's do the hip on this side. And what am I looking for? Well, first the abductors have a C curve like this, and then adductors coming from the middle to the back of the leg would be giving me some of that triangle. Now let's square it. Where's the knee? It's right here. That means this is the top. So difficult for this is we've looked at a lot of shapes or parts for the muscles in pretty standard views, and the role of homework is always to get you to see it in multiple others. So here the front is facing out that way, front of the leg, which is a different view. It's kind of a 3/4 turn. So I'm going to put my tensor to go like this, and that's going to the outside. So now I'm more confident making those decisions because I know where the outside is. So I just kind of direct my line over. Then sartorius would be going this way. That's part of the adductor, and that's going to have a really clear continuation because it's on that inside plane. So as soon as it hits my corner, then I turn it. So it goes here, and then it's going to sweep and land on the lower portion. So not on the femur, but below. And then we could divide in our 3 shapes: sartorius, adductor, magnus, and then the generic adductor group, which would be this line. And then this initial curve, I think, would be a better show for the hamstring. Just kind of peeking behind it. So other shapes, this plane, now that I have it all kind of framed out, that's the quadricep, that's your rectus. Bring it down, wrap it across, maintain it on the plane, then back up. So here's another fossa, right? That's where that muscle dives in to get to the hip. Triangle. So all triangles and eggs, pretty much. This side is the vastus medialis, so we could put a ball here, and that's going to be connecting much lower. So I'm going to bring it closer down, and then this squared front is the tendon. I'm leaving that as an expression of the tendon, and so that's going to be leading me down into the patella, and then from there into the tibia. So where should our patella be? Let's put it right here. Just like a little triangle shape or shield. And then you could see barely there's a little white shape here. That's the patellar ligament. But you like looking here for that tendon, patella, ligament. I'm trying to get all of my lines to go across that plane, and that's how you're maintaining perspective. As soon as it hits that corner, then everything's going that way. So this is the value of the perspective. Of course, nobody wants to draw something that looks like a robot. Like, I don't have an aesthetic choice or like leaning towards like objectified robot figures. It's so that these lines can have a grounding. But like, it's not an aesthetic. It's weird to me when people think that it's I've chosen to do like a participate in like creating a view of figures that are all geometric and perspectively designed. It's just a step to the end. So here would be the calf, and let's put in first where we think the tibia is. So tibia comes out like this. Here's the ankle, that's the medial ankle, and so I'm going to put gastrocnemius and then soleus behind that. So there's my 2, and it looks like they're flexed to me because the heel is slightly raised. If that's the ground, there's like a little bit of negative space underneath. So I think that these muscles are active to bring that up. And so I'll just give like a little bit of a squared off feeling. The front, I'd say it's stretched a little bit more so because the toes are down. They're not extended. And that would be enough, at least for how we've discussed homework, just showing the basic shapes, which is in the lower leg primarily the calf. We didn't spend too much time getting into the kind of the unique and difficult area of the front of the leg. So that side would be done. We can do a little bit more here, even though I promised I would only do half. Something I always show in the neck is the area where the hyoid would be and how the muscles of the jaw connect to it. This would be the cartilage for the throat. And then on this side, here would be our fossa. Trap is more pinched on this side. It's closer up. Looks like the shoulders kind of thrown back more on this one, so I would see like this principle on this side much more clearly. So trap is sitting like that. So it's kind of like here it's the shoulder is dropped, so you see more so of the front. And then when I look at the deltoid, it repeats that. So it repeats the same ending that the trap has and pulls down. But I would still be seeing it go to the outside. So it looks like this. Here is the humerus, front. I'm setting this up so I can put my shapes over it. And then forearm. So this is the thumb side. And if we start to play in some of the muscles here, bicep would probably be more pinched because the arm is bent. So same thing, I'm just putting it in the front, but it's going to have more of a pinched, or like usually when the bicep flex, I give it more of a teardrop shape. So teardrop, especially when the tear, or like the pointed area of the tear, goes under and up. So that's how I integrate it. Armpit is always coracoid brachialis, so it's 3. Lat, and then teres major coming from the back. So 1, 2, 3. That's my shapes. So just wrapping and overlapping them. Brachialis is here, where that ends, going to the ulna. And then on this side, the tricep would be stretched. So we'd be seeing more of a longer S curve going behind or under the box. So like that. And then for the forearm, let's say that's the elbow. That's kind of like the funny bone. What I'd be looking to show on this side is, so the ridge group is still coming from the plane I don't see. So it's coming up and then going down to the thumb. So it's just giving you this extra mass there that you don't have on like the inside of your elbow. And then the rest of this would be your flexors. And kind of point off that elbow and then up into the hand. So this is the ulna. Yeah, this is a way you could maintain your landmark, is just bringing that down to the elbow so that you have that kind of straight bone there. And then he's got pretty big forearms, but I probably overdid it with that one. And I think this looks weird. So radius, we're not going to worry about hands because we didn't get to them in this particular class. So there's my ridge group, and then sometimes there'll be just like a little pinch here, but I would, for all of you, just leave this as a shape for now. Just do your flexors shapes until you're familiar with how everything is organized, and you could build a little bit more complexity into it after that. Maybe there could be like a little bit of a extensor shape behind the ulna, but I would leave it, as far as homework goes, just like this. And then if you, like at the very least, you could just kind of lay in a shape for the hand. You could do like a glove, or just something that shows a gesture, or a kind of an envelope in terms of where fingers should be or where you think they're placed. But I wouldn't end or put any time investing into detail, or else it's going to look like that. You're just going to start to develop like kind of bizarre contours, and the only reason you would do something like this is to help you understand where muscles go. Okay, so that's done. Now on this side we're going to do show some of the leg. So this one, adductors or abductors going this way, everything behind or to the outside. So here's just kind of reinforcing that overlap. Those go to the outside of the leg. The adductors would be going from here to the back. So that's part of the curve you'd get here, but if this leg is pulled away like it is, they would be stretching. So this would be C, this would be S. And then sartorius. So these are my steps, right? Ab, ad, sartorius, because all of that defines where the quadriceps starts for me. And you could feel kind of the volume of the sartorius coming through here and then down. This is the third shape. That would be the magnus. And then the very bottom, under that maybe there's hamstring coming here, and that's that dark line. It's kind of the tendon. And then quadricep into here. So that's the rectus ending in the perspective. Here's the vastus medialis. And so when I'm placing these, I'm trying to think about, well, how does that contribute? What is the form this tiny muscle sculpted onto that box? And then now it just is kind of onto the bony structure of the knee. So you could pay attention to that by just playing up the box or rounding it so that it feels more like the epicondyle of the knee. Here's the patella. And then the bumps that are kind of beneath this would be the plateau of the tibia. And then we see this patellar ligament. That would be a continuation of the tendon in terms of the structure of this area. This is the tuberosity. And then same thing that we did kind of for the other side. Find the shaft of the bone for the tibia. The fibula is dominant, you could place that too. And then just organize your shapes, which primarily is the calf. So I'm going to put in a line that goes behind into the back of the knee. That's the gastrocnemius. So there's always one. Soleus is the neck shape that's coming from behind as well. And maybe we could pinch these more than I have. So let's give it more of a C. And then down. So hopefully this is a little bit helpful. It's not meant to be anything other than just a reminder of the workflow and how I'm kind of asking you or encouraging you to work with your homework. So it's it's going to get easier as you go along because you'll get quicker and quicker. I think at first it's going to take some focus and concentration, but you'll remember the muscles quickly. Just keep in mind that each part can be defined by 3 shapes, so that's going to really make it a much quicker task to learn once you only have to worry about 3 each time.